The sun in Anbar province was merciless. It burned down on FOB Sabre, as if the desert itself wanted to crush the 65 soldiers stationed there. By mid-afternoon, the air shimmered with heat, every breath a mouthful of sand and dust. And then the sirens wailed. The sound ripped through the bass like a blade, high-pitched, urgent, and filled with the promise of death. Within seconds, the forward operating base, usually a place of routine reports and half-hearted jokes, exploded into chaos. Grab your rifles. Move, move. Captain Derek Stone's voice bellowed across the courtyard. The man was built like a linebacker, towering, broad-shouldered, veins bulging from his neck as he barked orders. He kicked over a supply crate, pulling out an M4 carbine, but the weapon jammed immediately. With a grunt of disgust, he hurled it toward the woman crouched nearby. "Take it, secretary," Stone sneered. "At least pretend you know which end shoots." The rifle spun in the air, and Emma Cross caught it in one smooth motion. No fumbling, no hesitation. Her fingers slid over the safety selector. Her eyes calmed even as explosions rocked the perimeter walls. Private Martinez, barely 20 years old and still smelling of boot camp, blinked at her. He swore he saw her hands move faster than their drill instructors ever had. Emma Cross wasn't supposed to stand out. For 7 long months, she'd lived here in Sabre, typing reports, filing logistics requests, fixing broken printers when no one else would. The quiet one, the others called her. She never complained about the desert's 115 degrees heat, never raised her voice, never spoke about her past. But every morning, before anyone noticed, Emma would kneel in the sand. She'd let a handful slip through her fingers, watching how the wind carried the grains. Soldiers assumed it was just a quirk, a little eccentricity. None of them questioned why the serial numbers on her old dog tags had been deliberately scratched away. At 1,500 hours, the storm arrived. Insurgent fighters spilled over the ridgeline, one after another, like an army of angry ants. Their war cries echoed with the rattling chorus of AK-47s. Dust and smoke filled the horizon as mortar rounds slammed into the concrete barriers. Stone was already shouting into his radio, his tone riding the edge of panic. "Hold the western wall. I want overlapping fire. Keep them back." But there were too many. 180 fighters against 65 defenders. The base shook with each impact. "Cross." Stone barked. "Get your skinny ass to supply and grab more mags." He didn't wait for her reply. He never did. To him, Emma Cross was dead weight, a desk jockey pretending to wear a uniform. Just yesterday, he'd announced to everyone, "Sergeant Cross is our weak link. She's admin, not a soldier. Don't expect her to save your lives." But as Emma moved, something froze her mid-step. There, beneath the chaos of gunfire, she heard it. Crack, thump, the unmistakable rhythm of a Dragunov sniper rifle. The sound carried across the desert like a sinister heartbeat. Emma tilted her head, listening, calculating. 950 meters, she whispered. Northwest ridge, behind the rocks. Martinez heard her. His eyes widened. What did you say?" "There's a sniper out there. He's about to pick off 3rd Squad. Tell Captain Stone to move them 25 meters south, or they're done." Martinez stammered. "How could you possibly know that?" Emma's voice didn't waver. "Just tell him." The private sprinted through the dust, shouting to Stone. But the captain barely spared him a glance before waving him away. Seconds later, the Dragunov cracked again. A scream tore through the comms as one of 3rd Squad's men dropped, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Stone's face blanched. For the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. Tower 2 is down. They're inside the wire, a panicked voice shouted over the radio. Those words sent a chill through every soldier's veins. Inside the wire, the phrase no one ever wanted to hear. It meant the enemy had breached their defenses. Emma sprinted back toward the command post, weaving through flying debris. Mortar blasts rattled the earth beneath her boots. The western wall was broken, and insurgents were pouring through like a flood. Fall back to secondary positions. Stone's voice cracked as he tried to rally the line. He spotted Emma, crouched behind a barrier with rifles slung across her back. His anger boiled over. Cross, where the hell are those magazines? And what are you doing with those rifles? His voice dripped with disdain. You're qualified expert on PowerPoint, not combat. Emma didn't answer. She couldn't, because once again she heard it. The crack thump, the whisper of death. Her eyes scanned the horizon, muscle memory from another life guiding her vision. She spotted it, barely visible through heat shimmer and smoke. A sniper shadow. Southwest ridge, she murmured. 8 degrees right of the burnout truck. He's there. Stone grabbed her shoulder roughly, spinning her around. I don't have time for your guessing games, secretary. He shoved his own rifle into her chest with a sneer. Here, let's see what our little paper pusher can do with a real weapon. Try not to shoot yourself, princess. Emma took the rifle. Her hands moved automatically. A function check. A glance at the chamber. She spotted the double feed jam instantly. Stone laughed bitterly. It's jammed solid, just like your brain when you try to think tactically. But before the words left his mouth, Emma's hands were already moving. In 9 seconds flat, she stripped the weapon down, cleared the casing, reassembled it, and performed an action drill as if she'd done it 10,000 times before. Martinez's jaw dropped. Stone stared. And for the first time since the attack began, silence fell between the gunfire. Emma didn't waste words. She slipped from cover to cover with movements too precise, too efficient, not clumsy, not desperate, professional. The kind of movements soldiers only learn in places far darker than boot camp. The siege had begun, and Emma Cross was no longer hiding. Who exactly is Emma Cross? And what kind of past leaves you with instincts sharp enough to hear death across a battlefield? The desert was alive with fire. Bullets chewed chunks out of the barriers. Mortars pounded the ground until the base itself seemed to shake apart. Emma pressed her back to a wall, her borrowed rifle steady in her hands. She inhaled. The acrid taste of gunpowder filled her throat. Dust clung to her lips. And beneath the roar of chaos, she heard it again. Crack thump. The sniper. Patient. Precise. Waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Private Martinez crawled into the dirt beside her, his face pale, hands trembling around his M4. He was young, too young, and the fear in his eyes made him look like a boy instead of a soldier. Sergeant, that sound, he whispered, almost afraid to say it out loud. Emma's voice was calm, almost too calm for the battlefield raging around them. He's good, not spraying wild. He's choosing his shots. Coordinated fire. She tilted her head, listening, calculating. Northwest ridge. 950 meters. He's adjusting for wind. Martinez shook his head in disbelief. How the hell can you tell that? You can't even see him. Emma's gaze stayed fixed on the ridge. Because I've heard that song before. Another Dragunov shot rang out. Another soldier cried out and collapsed. The western defense line was falling apart. Captain Stone stormed toward Emma, his voice hoarse from shouting. Cross, you're wasting time. I need ammo, not your damn guesses. But his tirade died mid-sentence. His eyes narrowed at the sight of Emma's steady grip, her controlled breathing, the way she scanned the ridge like a predator locked onto prey. What the hell are you doing? Stone barked. That's 900 meters with iron sights. You'd be lucky to hit the ground at that distance. Emma didn't flinch. She spoke with a sharp edge that cut through the noise around them. Captain, either help or get out of my way. People are dying. The words stopped Stone cold. For the first time since he'd met her, he didn't see the quiet desk sergeant who filed reports. He saw something else. Something dangerous. Martinez's eyes drifted to Emma's shoulder as she shifted position. That's when he saw it. A scar. Circular. Deep. The kind of mark left behind after thousands of hours with a rifle stock pressed into the same spot, over and over, until the skin itself carried a memory. Sergeant, Martinez whispered, almost reverently. Who are you? Emma didn't answer. She just whispered numbers under her breath, her tone flat, automatic, like she was reciting a prayer. Wind full value. Right to left. Gust 6, maybe 8 meters per second. She adjusted her aim, exhaled slowly. The world around her seemed to fall into silence. Then, over the comms, a new voice cut through the static. All stations, this is Sabre 6. Air support is 20 minutes out. We need to hold. The voice belonged to Colonel Rodriguez, their commanding officer. And then a pause. Who the hell is calling wind corrections on this frequency? Stone froze. His eyes darted to Emma, because without realizing it, she'd been keying her mic as she spoke, her calm voice echoing across the net. Rodriguez's tone shifted, edged with uncertainty. Say again. Identify yourself. But Emma ignored the radio. Her focus never left the ridge. Through the haze of smoke, she spotted movement. A figure standing tall among the chaos. Bodyguards clustered around him. A commander, directing mortar fire with practiced authority. Her voice was low, steady, certain. I've got eyes on their leader. Southwest Ridge, 950 meters. Martinez squinted through the dust. That's impossible. You can barely see the ridge. Emma's lips tightened. Radio antenna on his back. 3 guard with RPGs. He's the one calling the shots. And then she said something that made Martinez's blood run cold. In 45 seconds, he's going to shift mortar fire to the operations center. Stone barked a laugh, full of disbelief. Oh, that's rich. Psychic powers now, Cross. But before anyone could argue, the first mortar landed just short of the op center. Then another. Exactly 45 seconds later. Stone's face went pale. He looked at Emma like she was something inhuman. How the hell could you know that? Emma ignored him. She was already lowering herself into the dirt, settling into a prone position. Martinez swallowed hard. You're not really going to try it, are you? His voice cracked. That's 950 meters. With a bent sight, a foul barrel. Nobody can make that shot. Emma's hands didn't shake. Her voice was like steel. Watch me. Stone stormed closer, fury masking the fear in his eyes. Cross, if you fire that shot, you'll kill more of my men than you'll save. Put that rifle down. But Emma's tone lashed out sharp as a whip. Captain, shut up, or move. For a second, Stone faltered. Her eyes weren't soft anymore. They were cold, hard, and empty, the eyes of someone who had killed before. And that's when Stone saw what Martinez had seen. The scar, the mark of a shooter. The battle roared around them. But in that one stretch of dirt, time seemed to slow. Emma inhaled, her cheek pressed to the rifle stock. Her breathing slowed to a rhythm only she could hear. Every calculation, wind, distance, angle, heat shimmer, slid into place as naturally as breathing. The desert faded. The chaos faded. There was only her, the rifle, and the man on the ridge. And then, at the worst possible moment, click, the trigger fell dead. The rifle had jammed again. Emma's stomach turned to ice. The enemy commander was already moving, already signaling. Seconds from vanishing. Her hands exploded into motion. Tap, rack, bang. A drill executed with such violent precision that Martinez flinched just watching. The bolt slammed home. The rifle came alive again. Emma's voice dropped to a whisper, a prayer, a promise. One shot. She exhaled. Will Emma land the impossible shot with a broken rifle? Or will the commander slip away and destroy Sabre for good? The world shrank to the space between Emma Cross and the enemy commander. 950 meters. Heat shimmer bent the air, the desert light twisting reality like glass. But she didn't blink. She didn't breathe. She calculated. Martinez held his rifle limp at his side, his wide eyes fixed on her. Sergeant, you can't know, but he can. Emma's voice cut him off, low and certain. Quiet. Stone hovered behind her, anger and fear battling in his chest. He wanted to rip the rifle from her hands, to scream at her, to prove that she was nothing more than a desk clerk. But something about the way she lay in the dirt, body flat, elbows locked, cheek pressed to the stock, froze him. Because deep down he knew she wasn't guessing. She wasn't gambling. She was remembering. The sniper's crack rang out again. A bullet hissed over their position, slamming into the concrete barrier with a sharp whip crack. Dust rained down over Emma's shoulder. She didn't flinch. "Wind's shifting," she murmured. "Full value. Right to left. 8 meters per second." Her finger tightened around the trigger. Colonel Rodriguez's voice came over the net, jagged with panic. "All stations. Enemy commander identified on Southwest Ridge. Suppress that position now, or we're finished." Stone looked between his colonel's order and the woman at his feet, his throat tightening. Emma's lips curled into the faintest grim smile. Already on it. Time slowed. The battle noise dulled to a low, distant hum. Emma's breathing stretched out, deep and steady, like the world itself had aligned to her rhythm. She squeezed. The M4 bucked against her scarred shoulder. For a heartbeat, nothing happened, just the crack of her shot rolling across the desert. Then on the ridge, the commander's head snapped back. A mist of red blossomed into the dry heat. His body crumpled bonelessly into the dirt, his guards scattering in confusion. Silence. For 4 full seconds, the battlefield froze. Insurgents who had been pressing forward with furious cries now faltered, their momentum bleeding away into disbelief. And then the enemy's radio net erupted in chaos. Voices screaming, orders dissolving, fear spreading like wildfire. The coordinated assault collapsed into disorder. Fighters turned, stumbled, scattered. Martinez's jaw hung open. His voice broke like glass. "Holy, holy mother of..." He couldn't even finish. Stone staggered backward, pale, his mouth dry. That's impossible. Not with iron sights. Not with a damaged barrel. Not at 900 meters. But Emma was already moving. Her rifle swept to a new angle. "Contact left 250 meters, she called, her tone sharp, soldierly. She fired control pairs, each round finding its mark with unrelenting precision. The radio crackled again. Colonel Rodriguez, his voice almost reverent. "Outstanding shot. Who the hell made that kill?" Stone hesitated. He pressed his mic, his words uncertain. "Sir, it was Staff Sergeant Cross." The admin, the silence that followed stretched like an eternity. And then Rodriguez's voice dropped, hushed, almost disbelieving. "Cross? Did you say..." "Cross." Stone swallowed hard. "Affirmative, sir. Emma Cross." Rodriguez's next words were barely audible, a whisper carried over the comms. "Phantom. After all this time, it can't be?" Martinez turned to Emma. Confusion etched across his sweat-streaked face. "Phantom? What does that mean?" But Emma's eyes weren't on him. She was scanning the ridge, scanning the retreating fighters, scanning the broken line. Her breathing slowed again, her expression unreadable. She whispered, almost to herself, "It means my ghost just found me." And then came the sound, the deep, steady whoop-whoop-whoop of rotor blades slicing the air. Black silhouettes cut through the desert haze. UH-60 Blackhawks. Low, fast, unmarked. The ground shook as they flared over the FOB. Door gunners pouring led into the ridge line, shredding the retreating insurgents. Emma didn't smile. She didn't cheer, because she knew those birds, and she knew exactly who flew them. Why are unmarked Blackhawks and special operators suddenly here at a forgotten FOB? And why did Rodriguez call Emma Phantom? A name she thought was buried forever. The desert skies shook as the Blackhawks descended, their rotor wash kicking up cyclones of sand and smoke. The sound was deafening, an iron heartbeat pounding overhead. Door gunners fired in sweeping arcs, tracer rounds carving red-hot streaks into the dusk. Insurgents who just moments ago pressed their assault now scattered in panic, their once fearsome war cries swallowed by chaos. Martinez shielded his face from the sandstorm, staring up in awe. They're not ours. Look at those birds. No markings. None. Emma didn't answer. Her jaw tightened, because she recognized them. Every modification, every shadow. These weren't just rescue flights. They were hunters. And they weren't here by accident. The first Blackhawk flared hard, skid smashing into the dirt inside FOB Saber's wire. Ropes dropped in an instant, slapping against the ground. Figures slid down fast. Too fast. Black-clad operators. Faces hidden behind balaclavas. Rifles slung tight. Navy SEALs. Their movements weren't hurried, weren't sloppy. Every step was controlled, lethal, drilled to perfection. Martinez whispered, "They move like machines." Emma's gaze followed them, calm but heavy. No, not machines. Predators. One operator, taller than the rest, with streaks of gray at his temples, paused halfway through the dust cloud. He turned, eyes hidden by ballistic shades, but his body stiffened. Even through the chaos, he saw her, and he knew. The battle shifted fast. Within minutes, the combined firepower of Saber's defenders and the SEALs shattered the insurgent assault. Fighters stumbled back over the ridges, leaving weapons and bodies in their wake. The once deafening thunder of battle faded into scattered bursts of fire, then silence. Saber was alive. Barely. The dust settled. Smoke coiled above the shattered perimeter walls. The cries of the wounded drifted into the air. And then came a new sound. A third helicopter, slower, heavier, bristling with comms arrays. A command bird. It circled once, like a hawk eyeing its prey, before landing just outside the ruined gate. The man who stepped off wasn't a grunt. Wasn't even a field officer. It was Major General Marcus Kane, commander of Joint Special Operations Command. A man who never set foot in small outposts like Saber. Unless something monumental had just happened. Captain Stone snapped to attention so fast he nearly stumbled, his face pale beneath a layer of dust. General on the ground. Kane's presence was ire and gravity. Broad shoulders, close-cropped hair, eyes sharp as knives. His uniform bore no dust, nowhere. He was a man who carried authority like armor. He didn't look at the captain, didn't look at the soldiers lined up, some saluting, others staring in disbelief. He walked straight toward Emma. Emma stood. She still held the fouled rifle in her hands. Her uniform streaked with dirt and sweat. Her brown eyes tried to stay neutral, calm. But when Kane stopped in front of her, she felt the weight of her past pressing down like a storm cloud. "Master Sergeant Cross," Kane said quietly. Stones had snapped toward her so hard his neck cracked. "Master, what?" But Kane wasn't done. His gaze bore into Emma's soul. His voice dropped into something almost intimate. "Or should I still call you Phantom?" The words sliced through the air like a blade. Martinez froze, confused, his eyes darting between them. "Phantom? What does that mean? Who?" Emma's facade cracked for the first time in years. Her lips parted, but no words came. Her throat was dry. Her heart pounded in her ears. She had buried that name, left it to rot with ghosts in Fallujah. But Kane had just dragged it into the light. Stone sputtered. "Phantom? You're telling me this paper-pushing staff sergeant." Kane silenced him with a glare that could cut steel. He pulled a tablet from under his arm, swiping through classified files. His voice carried like judgment. "Operation Desert Wraith. Fallujah. For years ago, you and your spotter held off 150 insurgents for 18 hours while Delta extracted a captured pilot. The official report listed Phantom as Kia." He looked up, his jaw hardened. Imagine my surprise when Quantico's AI flagged a routine marksmanship qualification match. The same signature, the same impossible shooting pattern. And then today, his eyes narrowed, burning into her. Someone at FOB Saber makes a 950-meter kill shot with a broken rifle through heat shimmer. Silence. Stone staggered back a step. His voice cracked. "You mean to tell me the legend, the ghost story, has been hiding here, filing supply forms?" Martinez looked at Emma with new eyes, fearful, reverent, shaken. "Sergeant," he whispered, "you're her." Emma finally found her voice. It was quiet, raw. "Permission to speak freely, sir." Kane gave a single nod. "I requested the discharge. The new identity." After Desert Wraith, after losing Thompson, her voice faltered. "I couldn't, not anymore. I needed Phantom to die." For the first time, Emma's hands trembled against the rifle. But Kane's tone was grim, final. "The man you just killed? Our intel confirms he was trained by the same network that set up the Wraith ambush." The words hit Emma, like a bullet. Her breath caught. You're saying this wasn't random? That shot wasn't chance. Kane's expression was stone. No, someone wanted to draw you out. To confirm Phantom was still alive. Emma's blood ran cold. Her voice hardened into steel. And now they know. Kane didn't blink, which is why I need you back. You're the only operator who's faced this network and lived. For the first time in 4 years, Emma Cross felt the walls she'd built crumbling. The ghosts she had buried were clawing back into the light. She wasn't just admin anymore. She wasn't anonymous. Phantom was alive, and the world had just learned it. Will Emma step back into the shadows of war, or cling to the fragile life she built? And what kind of enemy is powerful enough to lure Phantom out of hiding? The desert evening hung heavy with smoke and silence. The battlefield had gone quiet. Too quiet. The insurgents were gone, their bodies scattered along the ridgeline, their weapons abandoned in the sand. FOB Sabre stood battered but alive. Soldiers leaned against broken barriers, bandaging wounds, hauling stretchers, staring across the ruins with wide, exhausted eyes. Every one of them knew they had survived something impossible, and every one of them knew why. On the landing pad, Emma stood stiff as the rotor washing the command bird whipped sand against her face. The rifle in her hands felt heavier now, like the weight of it carried not just the battle she had just fought, but every battle she had tried to leave behind. General Kane's voice carried a thrum of engines. You've been gone 4 years, Phantom, hiding under a name that doesn't belong to you. But today, you chose to pick up the rifle again. That was your answer, whether you admit it or not. Emma's eyes stayed on the horizon, where smoke bled into a blood-red sky. I didn't choose this, she said, her voice tight. I just wanted to disappear. Kane's jaw clenched. The people you killed today wanted the same thing, for you to disappear, permanently. And now that they know you're alive, they'll never stop hunting you. So ask yourself, do you want to run again? Or do you want to finish what they started? Behind them, Stone hovered like a ghost. The captain's arrogance was gone, replaced with something far uglier, fear. His voice cracked as he stammered, General, this doesn't make sense. She's just a sergeant, a secretary. She can't be. Kane's glare silenced him. She is Phantom, he said, as if the words themselves were law. And you should thank whatever god you pray to, Captain, that she was here tonight. Without her, you'd all be dead. Stone shut his mouth, his face pale, his pride shattered. Martinez stepped closer, his voice hesitant but earnest. Sergeant, or Phantom, whatever they call you, he swallowed. You saved us. You saved me. For the first time that day, Emma let her eyes soften. She laid a hand on the young private's trembling shoulder. Stay alive, kid. That would be thanks enough. But even as she said it, her chest tightened, because she remembered saying those same words once, long ago, to a man named Thompson, and he hadn't survived. The whine of the command bird's engines grew louder. Kane checked his watch, his tone final. Wheels up in 20. Pack only what you need. Emma's heart pounded. Part of her screamed to stay, to cling to the quiet, anonymous life she had built in Sabre, to keep her ghost buried. But she knew the truth. The moment she'd pulled that trigger, Phantom had returned. There was no hiding anymore. Emma Cross, the quiet desk sergeant, was dead. Master Sergeant Phantom had been reborn. She walked slowly toward the bird. Soldiers lined the edges of the landing pad. Some saluted. Some simply stared, eyes wide with something like awe, something like fear. They had seen what no one thought possible. And they would never forget the woman who made it happen. As the helicopter's rotor spun faster, Emma paused at the ramp. She looked back one last time at FOB Sabre. The dust, the shattered walls, the soldiers who had fought with everything they had. She thought of Thompson, of Fallujah, of debts unpaid, justice deferred. And then she stepped aboard. The door slammed shut. The engines roared. The bird lifted, pulling her away from Sabre, away from the fragile peace she'd built, and back into the shadows of war. Inside the dim cabin, Kane leaned close. His voice was quiet, steady. This was no accident. The enemy wanted to flush you out. And now they'll be coming. Harder, smarter, more prepared. Emma met his gaze, her expression unreadable. Then they'll find me ready. The desert shrank below as the helicopter banked east, blades chopping through the night. Emma closed her eyes. For the first time in 4 years, she let Phantom breathe, and in the silence between rotor beats, one truth pressed against her chest. In the end, it always came down to one shot, one chance, one moment to change everything. If you were Emma, hunted by enemies who thought you dead, forced to step back into a war you tried to bury, would you run again, or would you fight?